Daf Yomi, Tractate Bava Batra, page 20a. Top of the page, the words he, gufa, techas, etc. Let the barrel itself serve as a barrier. It should not be susceptible to impurity in this case, as an earthenware vessel does not contract impurity if its exterior is exposed to impurity. Rather, one must say that its opening faces inward, and it is rendered impure because the impurity enters through its opening. And if you wish, say instead that actually its opening faces outward. And with what are we dealing here? We are dealing with a metal barrel which does contract impurity through its exterior. The Gemara raises another objection to the assumption that an item for which there is a use does not reduce the dimensions of a window, even if it is not susceptible to impurity. From a Braita, Tosefta Oholot 14.6, with regard to grass that one plucked and placed in a window, or that grew on its own in windows, and scraps of fabric that do not measure 3 by 3 finger breadths, and a limb or flesh dangling from an animal or beast, and a bird resting in the window, and a Gentile sitting in the window, and a child born after 8 months of pregnancy who is not expected to survive, that is placed in the window, and salt, and an earthenware vessel, and a Torah scroll. All these reduce the dimensions of the window. Consequently, impurity passes through only if there remains an open space of a square handbreadth. But with regard to snow, hail, frost, ice, and water, all these do not reduce the dimensions of a window. The Gemara proceeds to challenge Shmuel's ruling from each of the cases of the Braita. The Gemara asks, but according to Shmuel, who says that an item that has a use is not considered part of the window and does not reduce the dimensions of the space, grass is fit for consumption by one's animal, so it will not remain in the window. Yet the Braita states that the grass reduces the dimensions of the window. The Gemara answers this is referring to afratza, which is a poisonous grass that is unfit for an animal to consume. The Braita teaches or grass that grew on its own also reduces the dimensions of the window. The Gemara asks, but since the grass damages the wall, the owner will remove it. Therefore, it should not serve as a barrier to impurity. Rava says this is referring to a wall of ruin, whose structural integrity is insignificant, and therefore the owner will not trouble himself to remove the grass. Rav Papa says the Braita may even be referring to a wall in a settled house, and it is referring to a case where the grass comes and 3 handbreadths beyond the window. In other words, the grass does not grow on the window, but takes roots some distance away, and from there it reaches the window. The homeowner is not particular about this grass and will not uproot it. The Gemara asks, why do scraps of fabric reduce the dimensions of the window? After all, they are fit for patching a tear in a garment. The Gemara answers, this is referring to thick straps, which are unsuitable for patching. The Gemara challenges, nevertheless, they are fit for a bloodletter to wipe up the blood at the point of incision. The The Gemara answers it is referring to sackcloth, which scratches the skin and would not be used for that purpose. Okay, I hear that. You don't want to use sackcloth if you're going to be, The Gemara asks, if it is referring to sackcloth, why does the Batra state that it is not 3 by 3 finger breadths? It should have said that it is not 4 by 4 hand breadths. Rough 4 by 4 hand breadths. Rough woven material of the kind used for sacks rather than clothes is susceptible to impurity only if its area measures at least 4 by 4 hand breadths. The Gemara answers, it is not actual sackcloth, rather it is like sackcloth. It is stiff and will therefore not be used by bloodletter, but it's woven like regular clothing. The Batra teaches, and the limb or flesh dangling from an animal or a beast reduces the dimensions of a window. The Gemara asks, according to the opinion of Shmuel, why should this be so? After all, the animal can rise and escape, and therefore it should not be considered as part of the window. The Gemara answers, this is referring to an animal that is tied in place. Okay. The Gemara challenges, but the owner of the animal will take it and slaughter it. The Gemara answers, it is referring to an animal that is not kosher and will not be slaughtered. The Gemara challenges, even so, he will take it and try to sell it to a Gentile. The Gemara responds, it is referring to a lean animal which no one will buy. And the Gemara continues, even if the animal does not move, there is a use for the part of that which is dangling, since he can cut it off and throw it to the doggies. Excuse me. The Gemara answers, since it is suffering to an animal, if he cuts it off, he will not do that. He said, the Batra further states, and a bird resting in the window reduces its dimensions. The Gemara challenges, but it will fly away, and therefore it should not be considered as part of the window. The Gemara answers, this is referring to a bird that is tied in place. The Gemara further challenges, but the owner will take it and slaughter it. The Gemara answers, this is referring to a non-kosher bird, which you will not slaughter. The Gemara continues, and even if it's not kosher, he will take it and try to sell it to a Gentile. The Gemara responds, it is referring to a klanita, a type of bird that is so bony that no one would want to purchase or consume it. The Gemara asks, but even so, you can give it to a child to play with. So why does it reduce the dimension of the window? The Gemara answers, it is referring to a bird that scratches. The Gemara challenges, but a klanita does not scratch. The Gemara answers, the Batra is referring to a type of bird that is like a klanita in that it is bony, but is inclined to scratch people. Okay. The Batra for the states, and a Gentile sitting in the window reduces the dimensions. The Gemara asks, but the Gentile will arise and leave. So why does he reduce the dimensions of the window? The Gemara answers, this is referring to someone who is tied in place. The Gemara continues, rather, another person will come and release him. The Gemara answers, this is referring to a leper who people are afraid to touch. The Gemara challenges, another leper will come and release him. Rather, this is referring to a prisoner of the monarchy, since he is confined as a punishment. Others are afraid to release him. The Batra teaches, and a child born after 8 months of pregnancy who is placed in a window reduces its dimensions. The Gemara challenges, perhaps his mother will come and remove him from there. The Gemara answers, this is referred to Shabbat, when it is prohibited to move a child as it is taught in Batra. A child born after 8 months is like a stone with regard to halachot of set aside, and therefore is prohibited to move him. But his mother may bend over the child and nurse him. Due to the hunger and failure to nurse will cause her to fall ill. The Batra teaches, salt reduces the dimensions of a window. The word challenges, is it fit for use, and people remove it from there? The Gemara answers, this is referring to bitter salt, which is not used as a seasoning. The Gemara challenges, nevertheless, it is fit for tanning hides. The Gemara responds, is referring to salt that has horns mixed with it, and therefore it will not be used for tanning. The Gemara challenges, even so, since this salt is damaging to the wall, he will remove damaging to the wall, he will remove it from there. The Gemara answers this is referring to a case where it sits on a shard of earthenware and consequently it does not damage the wall. The Gemara states, if it is resting on earthenware, let the shard itself serve as a barrier against the spreading of the impurity. Why then was the salt mentioned?